We've made a lot of progress by now. But now is the correct time to know some important concepts in VB.NET. So in this topic, we will be learning about the repetition of tasks, i.e. a loop. Let's consider a real-life example of a loop. We as human beings repeat the same task every day. We get up early in the morning followed by brush and bath, then go to work. In the evening we return home and have dinner and go to sleep. Again we get up in the morning and repeat the same process. So the daily routine of our life is a loop. Similarly, we can do repetition of tasks in a programming language. The word loop itself suggests that something is going to repeat. Loops allow you to repeat an action several times or until a specified condition is satisfied. Loops are used to repeat a given section of code a certain number of times or until a particular condition is met. Looping is a very useful feature of VB.NET because it makes repeated works easier. VB.NET supports the following loop statements: for loop, while loop, do while loop. Before moving ahead, let us see whether we are aware of loops or not. What we have just learned is the entire concept of a loop rolled into 3 screens. Now, the question is how different types of loops differ from each other. So, this topic is all about taking a deep dive into this question. First, we will go with the concept of for loop. Suppose you were asked to run for 10 minutes from the given time and you go on running for the fixed time. There are beginning and end points. All you need to do is continue your work till the destination is met. Now let's define the for loop. The for loop is probably the most popular of all VB.NET loops. This loop repeats a block of statements for a specified number of times. If you observe the for loop structure, after the start of the condition we have assigned a value to a variable x. Assigning value is followed by the conditions that have to be satisfied to get the code executed. If the condition is satisfied, the statements get executed. Once the condition becomes false, it stops executing further. The index variable is originally set to start automatically when the loop begins. Each time through the loop, the index is incremented by step. Step is set to a default of 1 if you don't specify a value, and when the index equals end, the loop ends. In the given example, module is named as a loop. Submain is the entry point of the program. We have declared a variable I as an integer. Step 1 is the step size, i.e. 1, so I is incremented by 1. We can increment I by 2 or 3 as per our wish. A for loop contains 3 operations. The first operation I equals 1 is initializing the loop iterator with a value of 1. The second operation is checking up to when the loop is valid. In this case, the loop is valid until I less than equals 10. The third operation is incrementing the value of I. For this example, for each repetition of the loop, the value of I is increased by 1. After the explanation, let's see the result of the code. When we execute the above Visual Basic program, we will get the result as shown below. While loop executes a set of statements as long as a given condition is true. The statement of the while loop is enclosed within a while and end while statements. If the condition is true, all of the statements run until the end while statement is closed. Condition is checked again, and if the condition is still true, the process is repeated. If it is false, then the loop ends. The while statement always checks the condition before it starts the loop. The working of while loop is very simple, as it simply lets the given statement execute when the condition is satisfied. On the other side, as the condition went false, the loop ends. The syntax for while loop is as follows. Here, statements may be a single statement or a block of statements. The loop repeats while the condition is true. At the end of the while loop, it has to be ended using the end keyword. In the given example, module is named as a loop. We have declared a variable I as an integer. A while loop variable is initialized before the statement. Here we initialized I to 0. In the while statement, we have kept until the loop is valid. So here we check up to I less than 10. Inside the while loop, we are printing I and then incrementing it by 1. Imagine what would happen if we don't increment I by 1? The loop will keep running, a concept called an infinite loop. Eventually, the program will crash. After the explanation, let's see the result of the code. When we execute the above Visual Basic program, we will get the result as shown below. I hope so. Now you are familiar with the concept of the loop and its two types. So, now is the time to learn the last type of loop in VB.NET. Let's contribute your time in learning a very interesting loop known as a do-while loop. In VB.NET, the do-while loop is useful to execute the block of statements until the defined condition returns true. It repeats the enclosed block of statements while a condition is true or until the condition becomes true. It could be cancelled at any time with the exit do statement. But the loop gets executed once for a false condition once before exiting the loop. In the do-while loop, it is first checked that if the condition is satisfied, if that is true, statements written in the body of the do loop will get executed, else the loop will come to an end. The do-while loop has two methods. You can either evaluate a condition at the beginning or at the end. The first method is the entry loop and the second method is the exit loop. In entry do-while loop, the Boolean condition is checked first and the exit do-while loop checks the Boolean condition after the execution of the loop statement. Method 1. In this method, we can classify a condition at the start. This is the entry do-while loop where the Boolean condition is checked first and then loop statement is executed. Method 1. In the given example, module is named as a loop. We have declared a variable I as an integer. If you observe the above example, first we are increasing the variable I value to 1 by using an increment operator and executing the statements within the do-while loop. After the explanation, let's see the result of the code. When we execute the above Visual Basic program, we will get the result as shown below. Method 2. In this method, we classify a condition at the end of the program. This is the exit do-while loop where the statement is executed first and the Boolean condition is checked. Method 2. In the given example, module is named as a loop. We have declared a variable I as an integer. If you observe the above example, first we are executing the statements within the do-while loop and increasing the variable I value to 1 by using increment operator. After the explanation, let's see the result of the code. When we execute the above Visual Basic program, we will get the result as shown below.